Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It is Stardust Rhyme here, and today we are talking about the questions we all want to know. This is if Smash characters had Pokemon types. Now we're going to set a couple of ground rules. Most Pokemon will have 1 to 2 typing, and the only other rule besides that is I'm allowed to break that rule. I'll also give you a couple of other, typings to go along with it. So let's go right into the video. At number 1, we got Mario with a fire normal typing. Now, that's pretty self-explanatory because he can always use all of the fire powers in Smash, but honestly, it's a toss-up between if you want him to be normal, fighting, ground. I can even see you saying water sometimes. So right here, I decided to go with fire normal though because he's the base character, you wanted to see what goes on. So getting right back into it with that same format, number 2. Donkey Kong. Now for Donkey Kong, I kind of see him being like a fighting ground type. You can also give him like normal or grass, but I really thought fighting ground was the best way to go for him. At number 3, we have Link with a fairy steel typing. He's the Lost Woods boy, he's an elf, he is all of these kind of things. So I kind of figured fairy steel would be the best, but I can also see you giving him fighting, maybe even a fire typing, those kind of types. At number 4, we have Samus, who's a fire psychic type. I can see you making her a normal, electric, fighting, or flying type, but I think fire psychic works, especially because her Echo Fighter, Dark Samus, I put as an electric dark type. Now, they have this duality where Dark Samus is better than Samus, but of course you always overcome your evils and stuff like that. The other typings I can see for Dark Samus would honestly either be fire or fighting. At number 5, we have Yoshi, who I put as a normal dragon, but honestly with the final Smash, in all of the previous games, you can put him as a fire, a flying, or a fighting type, and I wouldn't even care, I think that would be a pretty good argument. At number 6, we have Kirby, and all of the Kirby characters I automatically gave flying because they're all super puffy and they can fly for a long time, but the other typing I gave Kirby was normal. So Kirby is normal flying. I can also see you giving him psychic, because that's like one of the big typings that like overpowered characters get. But I think the rule of thumb for Kirby is whenever he inhales, it would be one of his moves where he can copy his opponent's type, kind of like Kecleon, but it would be exclusive to Kirby, and it would only override his normal type because he can always fly. At number 7, we have Fox. I have him for a fighting electric type. You could also have him normal, flying, ground, fire, steel, but I wanted him to be good against Falco, who I put as a different type, and I also wanted him to be good against Wolf, so fighting electric just kind of fit that. At number 8, we have Pikachu. Pikachu is of course an electric type. I'm not going to change any of the previous typings already set in stone. At number 9, we have Luigi, and just like how Mario was normal fire, I put Luigi at electric normal. And this is a little bit more of like Luigi lore, but in Superstar Sega, he had a lot of the electric attacks. In this game, he doesn't really, so I can see you putting him as a fire normal. But I also have fighting, ground, and flying on his list of things because he's a lot floatier. He's also, the Super Mario Brothers, he's a plumber, and he fights a lot. So I could see any of those typings, but I just like electric normal more because I was a fan of the old RPGs. At number 10, we have Ness, who's a pure psychic type. I heard a lot of people online saying he could be psychic normal, just to give him that immunity to ghost typings. I thought that was kind of funny. But he's also, you could give him fairy, you could give him fire, you could give him electric. He's got all of those typings, honestly. At number 11, we have Captain Falcon, who's a fire fighting type. I could see you give him normal, electric, or flying, but I think fire fighting just works so well for Captain Falcon. I think that's honestly what I want to keep him at. At number 12, we have Jigglypuff for a normal fairy type. Again, I'm not going to change any of the Pokemon. I'll bring him up for sake's notice, At number 13, we have Peach as a fairy flying type. Now, I think flying fit it really well, but you can also give him fire, normal, grass, or ground because of the turnips. And then Daisy is the counterpart to that, where I think Peach should be super effective against Daisy, but I want them both to be flying type. And I think Daisy is much more rowdy and like upbeat and like kind of like get your toes dirty kind of girl. So I gave her fighting, flying. And again, that's going to contrast against the fairy, because the fairy is super effective against the fighting, so, you know, that all works out. But you can also give Daisy fire, normal, fairy, grass, or ground, and I think no one would complain. At number 14, I have Bowser. I just gave him the normal fire dragon stick, you know, he is a fire-breathing dragon. You can give him pure dragon if you want. You could give him steel, rock, or ground because of how hard his shell is, or you could give him a dark type if you think he's that evil. At number 15, I have Ice Climbers, and that's a pretty solid typing of ice. You could give him fighting, water, steel, normal, or ground, and honestly, ice steel wouldn't be a bad combo because Ice Climbers are supposed to be super effective against the ice they're climbing, so I kind of think that ice steel would also work. At number 16, we have Sheik. I guess Sheik comes before Zelda. But for Sheik, I gave her a dark fighting type. This way, Link is super effective against her. She also is super effective against Ganondorf later down the line. On top of that, Zelda, I gave Psychic Fairy. Again, I think she should be super effective against Ganondorf. I don't think Ganondorf should beat any of them. Other typings I could see for them, or both of them honestly, is Steel, Ghost, Fairy, and Psychic. And of course, Dark and Fighting. Any of those pools, honestly, for those two characters would both work. For Dr. Mario, we haven't seen a lot of water typing, and I honestly think that medicine and that kind of branch, all like healing stuff, could be water, and I also think it could be poison, so I gave Dr. Mario poison water. I've seen a lot of people say electric or psychic, so I can see those. I can see fairy, I can see fighting, I can see normal, but I gave Dr. Mario poison water. At number 19, we have Pichu, who's electric. At number 20, we have Falco, who's a fighting flying type. Again, I put Fox earlier on the list as an electric type, and he wins out because of this. And then the fighting type on Fox will cover, you know, more of the wolf part. But I think, honestly, I think it's good that Fox beats out Falco and Wolf. So I put Falco as a fighting flying, but honestly, you could give him electric, steel, or fire. No one would complain. For Marth, I made a pure steel typing. You could also give Marth like a fairy, a normal, or a fighting type, but I think him and Lucina both fit pure steel typing. That's right, Lucina is also a pure steel typing, and you can have fairy, normal, fighting just like Marth. At number 22, we have Young Link, and I put him as a fire fairy type. The trend I went with all the links are all of them are the little elvish boys, so I gave all of them fairy and then a dual typing, and I think fire just kind of fit it. Steel fighting is its kind of like secondary typings, you know, if you wanted to give them a different one of the types, you could give them steel or fighting, but I think fire with the fire arrows on this version of Link honestly fit it the best. At number 23, we have Ganondorf, who's a dark psychic type. Now, dark is pretty obvious, but I think psychic is more needed because he's a warlock. Like, he uses all those spells on the games, and we don't get to see that side of him in this game, but I decided to put it in anyway. Other typings I can see you give him is dark fighting or dark steel, but you gotta keep that dark typing. I kind of feel like psychic is a necessity as well. At number 24, I have Mewtwo, and that's just psychic type. At number 25, we have Roy. He's our boy. He's a steel fire type. I wanted him to duel against the idea of Marth and Lucina because they were very just plain steel types. I think this one should get fire type. Just kind of like the ability to contrast the other two. And for number 25, Chrom, I have steel flying because he turned all of Marth's like normal moves from Roy's fire moves into flying moves. And again, you could also give him like normal or fighting for both of these guys, you know, like that kind of stuff. At number 26, we have Game & Watch. I wanted to give Game & Watch flying type, but I can also see you give him normal or dark, but I think pure flying works because he's a piece of paper and he's kind of thin. Maybe give him grass type if you want to make that joke, but at number 27, hitting off the Brawl characters, leaving the melee cast, we actually have Meta Knight, and that is dark flying. Again, I gave every one of them a flying type, and Kirby was normal flying, so Meta Knight's going to be the dark flying type. And then you could also give him psychic, fighting, or steel. I can honestly see any of that. Gallica is his sword, so like really anything to do with that would also work, but I think dark fits him. He's not evil, not all dark types are, even though evil is like the actual name of it in Japan, but you get some nice dark types in there. At number 28, there's Pit. He is a flying fairy type. I gave all of the goddess characters, Palutena, Kid Icarus, like the flying type, and Dark Pit actually straight away, and he got flying dark. Pit and Palutena are both flying fairy. Dark Pit got flying dark, you know, they share the same slot though. Pit can either be steel fire, and then Dark Pit can be steel electric. Like, those are the secondary typings because of the side Bs. Even like a fighting type for either one of these two, I could see it. At number 29, we have Zero Suit Samus, who's an electric fighting type. I didn't think the dark type entirely fit her because she wasn't like really stealthy. I mean, she's a stealth character, but I think electric fighting kind of does the job. You could also give her flying because she's a lot lighter, or a normal type because she lost her suit, but I think the electric is fine. At number 30, we have Wario. I think this was very obvious. He eats the garlic, he's a bad person. Poison dark, there we go. You could also give him fighting or normal to keep with the rest of the characters, but I think poison dark fits him well. At 31, we have Snake with fire dark type. I think honestly this kind of fits. You could give him dark fighting, dark steel, but I think dark fire works because of all of his explosions in this game, so I kind of handed him that one. Ike is the replacement for Roy. Of course, we already see that all the time. So we got fire, steel, and again, you could give him normal fighting if you want, but I think fire steel works the best for him. Pokemon Trainer is number 33 through 35. That's Squirtle, Ivysaur, Charizard. Pokemon Trainer themselves are just going to be a normal type. They're a normal trainer, but of course each of their Pokemon get their respective typings. Water, grass poison, and fire flying, you know, just like that. At number 36, we have Diddy Kong, who's a fighting flying type. You know, those barrels keeping Diddy Kong in the air. I think it would be cool if there was a mechanic with Diddy Kong. If like you get hit with a certain amount of damage, you actually lose your flying type. But I also think the reason I gave him flying fighting is because Donkey Kong has the earthquake attack. You know, he's got those bongo slams. That's definitely an EQ-like move. I think Diddy Kong would be a great partner for Donkey Kong in doubles, and I wanted to show that off more with the flying type. Of course, you would have it be like, oh, once Diddy Kong reaches half HP, it loses its flying type. It becomes grounded or whatever. And that would be a really interesting character because then you're fighting and not flying, and then you could get hit by the earthquakes if your barrels pop. Another way you could represent them, though, is fire, normal, grass, or ground. I could really see any of them. He's a monkey. You know, monkey see, monkey do. For Lucas, he's a little bit more Fae-like and like younger than Ness in my eyes. Like, he's always been the little brother. And because of that, I gave Lucas Psychic Fairy. So he got that fairy tacked on, but honestly, he can have ice, fire, or electric. Like, he really got all of those. For Sonic, I gave him fighting, but flying, electric, ice, and normal are also all good types for him because they're like speed typings, and Sonic is way more of a speed character. He's the Knight of the Wind. You could give him flying. You could give him steel. Hey, if you want to go to Sonic and the Black Knight, steel type, bam, slap it on him. At number 39, we have King Dedede. For King Dedede, I gave him fighting, flying. Again, everyone has the flying type, and this way he beats Kirby's normal typing, but he loses to Kirby's flying. And then for Meta Knight, who's usually under King Dedede, again, King Dedede beats Meta Knight's dark typing, but loses to Meta Knight's flying. So King Dedede goes even because of his flying, but again, it puts him on that like double-edged sword where he relates the other two characters by beating one of their types but losing to the other that he shares with them, so no one really loses to him. You know, fighting is resisted by flying. So when he fights Meta Knight, he goes even. When he fights Kirby, he goes even. But he does have that type advantage on them. And they also always have the flying type on him. I always thought that was really interesting because King Dedede is that type of character. Anyway, I gave King Dedede fighting, flying. You can also give him normal, dark, or steel type when he puts on the mask even. And that's my typing for King Dedede at number 39. At number 40, we have Olimar. Olimar is a bug water, fire, and electric typing. Now hear me out. What if Olimar was a bug type, with a secondary type based on the number of times he's been hit in battle? For every 1 hit, he'll be turned to water. For every 2 hits, he'll be turned to fire. For every 3 hits, he'll be turned to electric. This would kind of simulate the Pikmin cycling through. You could go even farther and say he could have a rock or poison, or even say something like, oh, he has a flying one as well. But I think water, fire, electric, and him being a bug type with not a lot of health, I put him as bug mostly because he's a small character, but it'd be really cool to see him use this cycling mechanic. Oh, you hit me? Now I'm no longer a water type, I'm a fire type. Oh, you're doubling into me? What if I hit myself to change my typing? You know, like what if my partner hits me with a water move when I'm a water type? I change to fire. When they use a grass type move, now it's resist, now I'm on electric. Then they use a water type move, I resist. You know, it's like one of those things where you could start playing around them. I think Olimar would have a really cool time with that, like how Kirby would change his type to his opponent, but Olimar would be on this cycle, so you'd be able to control it kind of. For Lucario, number 41, we have Steel Fighting. For number 42, we have Rob. He's just a pure Steel type. You could give him Psychic or Normal. Anything really fits him. He's just kind of a toy, which is why I gave him Steel. At number 43, we have Toon Link. Again, all of the links have Fairy typing, but Toon Link has Fairy flying. You could also give him Steel, Fire, Ice, Electric. He uses all the elements, but Fairy flying, he is the Wind Waker, you know? Like, he uses the flying, like, wind sails and stuff like that. I can also see you giving him Water. At number 44, we have Wolf. Wolf is Dark Electric, so Electric beats out Falco's flying type, and Dark loses to Fox's fighting type. Again, it puts them in this triangle where they all relate to each other. I can also see you giving him Fighting, Flying, or Steel. Honestly, any of those work, but I kind of wanted to give him these types to make him correlate to the other characters. Villager here, I just gave him Normal. You could also give him Grass type. Mega Man, I gave him Normal Steel, but he could also be Rock Fighting. You know, he's the Super Fighting Robot, and he is Rockman. Honestly, any of those, but I think whatever you give him Protein, right? He uses the super robots, the robot masters he defeats to change his typing. I think honestly that would be really cool for that to see, like that be a real mechanic with Protein. You use a fire type move, Mega Man becomes fire type, you know, that's a cool mechanic. At number 47, we have Wii Fit Trainer as a normal fighting or just normal type. Honestly, normal or fighting, whichever one you go with. You could give him pure. I think pure normal works just fine. But normal fighting or pure normal, it doesn't really matter. For Rosalina and Luma, I'm going to propose another like dual mechanic. Rosalina is a fairy type and Luma is a psychic type. I think both of them could be psychic type, but I kind of want to do this gimmick where if you use a special move, something that doesn't hit close range, you'll be a fairy type. If you use a physical move, you get Luma's attack, which is a psychic attack. So you want to make all of your physical moves psychic, you want to make all of your special moves fairy to get that stab, and then you can pick which one you want to use based on your opponent. I think that's a really cool mechanic, and maybe when Rosalina goes like half health, it loses the ability to do that. Or you give it just psychic type, and you can give it the parental bond ability where it hits another time. I think that would also be acceptable. You could also give Rosalina dark or normal because, you know, stars and galaxy, and she's just a girl at the end of the day. At number 49, we have Little Mac, fighting ground type. I think he needs the ground type. You could also give him normal type, but I think fighting ground works because he's not an air fighter, you know? At number 50, we have Greninja with water dark. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. At number 51, 52, and 53, we have the Miis. So for number 51 Mii Brawler, we gave him normal fighting. Number 52 Mii Sword Fighter, normal steel, and Mii Gunner, normal electric. That way all of them have normal in it because you're supposed to kind of like put yourself on the character. And it's like, honestly, all three of these types kind of work. At number 54, like I said, Palutena has the same type as Pit because why not? They are literally the same. Flying Fairy. Again, I can see you making her mono flying or mono fairy, and same as I think Pit. I think Dark Pit needs to be flying dark though, but I think that relationship of Pit always beating Dark Pit is kind of needed again. I think relating the characters in the same game to each other is kind of cool. Pac-Man, I gave normal electric, but you can also give him fighting or ghost. Honestly, electric is more about his arcade background, you know, stuff like that. But ghost, he literally fights with the ghosts in the game we're in, and fighting, Pac-Man punches people. I think we all kind of get the point with that. With Robin, I have psychic, and then another one of those special gimmicks. So every time Olimar got hit, he changed his type. But every time Robin attacks, Robin's type changes. I think that's a cool mechanic. It's almost like a protein, but it will always cycle through dark, electric, fire, and flying. That way you get the full list of your spells. That way you're a psychic type because you're a wizard, but you also get that full list of spells. So you go dark, electric, fire, flying. Again, every time you attack, if you protect, you can delay it to mess up your opponent. If you use a status move, you can delay it to mess up your opponent. If you think they're going to prankster you, stay dark type. I think that idea of switching your type would be really cool for a character like Robin. And Olimar also does it really well, and so does Mega Man. So does Rosa and Luma. I just wanted to do them all in a different way. Speaking of that, number 57, Shulk, is another psychic type. He can see into the future, but his second type is based on a move he uses, where it's called Monado. He will be the only character in this game, but I can change his secondary type. Again, it will circle through, but he has to manually click this one. But he'll also gain bigger buffs. His ability will give him a different boost per whatever type he is. If he's fire, he'll get the attack. If he's ghost, he'll get the, buster. If he's flying, he'll get the jump. If he's ground, he'll get the defense. If he's electric, he'll get the speed. You know, one of those things. So he has to manually do it, but he gets a type buff every time, a stat buff every time he does it. And I think that'd be a cool way to implement Shulk. At number 58, we have Bowser Jr. Dragon Steel could give him fire or electric, but he's got that clown car, so I think Dragon Steel honestly fits him the best. At number 59, we have Duck Hunt as a dark flying. I think the Duck Hunt, the dog from Duck Hunt is honestly the biggest menace in history. He'll laugh at you if you miss your shots. He's honestly a dark type, and we all know it. And then of course the bird gets the flying type. If you want to give him other types, you could give the dog normal, or you could give them the electric type because the zapper is part of their moveset. I thought that would be really interesting if maybe he was a dark electric or flying electric, whatever you want to give the zapper. But I think maybe he has an ability that gives him stab on electric type moves, so he's dark flying and then he gets electric type stab, but he doesn't get the weakness of ground, especially because he's already a flying type, so it doesn't really matter anyway. At number 60, we have Ryu. He can only be a fighting type. Maybe a normal type, but I think fighting works. If you give him a normal type, then you could have this weird mentality of like Ryu doesn't like fighting, so he loses to fighting, but I think fighting works the best. Ken, of course, is a fighting fire type. He is just Ryu with fire. Like, he is a Shoto. You kind of already knew that. That one was kind of obvious. For Cloud, I gave him pure steel. You could also give him the fighting typing, but I don't know. I gave him pure steel, but steel fighting works. You'll see later on down the line what I give Sephiroth. I think steel fighting would actually contrast Sephiroth better. For number 62, I gave Corrin Water Dragon. He's literally just a water dragon. For number 63, we have Bayonetta, Fairy Dark. You can also give Bayonetta Steel, Psychic, Flying, Fighting, Flying, Bug. It's just all types that you could give this character, honestly. Like, Bayonetta has all these types, and the Bug is mostly because of the butterfly flying, because, you know, mystical. Anyway, Fairy Dark, I think works very well for them. For number 64, we have Inkling with Poison Water. Now, my proposal for this character is that they have an ability, or not poison water, pure poison, or poison water. My proposal for this character is water just makes the poison a bit more liquidy, but honestly give Inkling pure poison, and then say, hey, this Pokemon has an ability where it is only weak to poison or water. You can only die to other Ink attacks or water. Those are the weaknesses of Inkling, we already know that. given an ability to show it. So Inkling will only have 2 weaknesses, even having a strong attacking type like Poison. No longer weak to Steel, no longer weak to whatever. Poison and Water are its only weaknesses. I think that would be a fun twist on this character. And honestly, it would make you think twice about attacking an Inkling like that. For number 65, we have Ridley, which is a Dragon Dark. You can honestly give it Fire, Flying, or Steel. Any of those will work, but I think Ridley as a Dragon Dark works pretty well. At number 66, we got Simon, Steel Fairy. You could give him Fire or Fighting, and same with Richter, Steel Fairy, and you could give him Fire or Fighting, but I think he needs to beat the Dark types, but he still needs to be able to hit the Ghost types. So I think Steel Fairy is like the best way to get it, you know? Even though like they're not really mythical, they use all of like the holy symbols. At number 67, we have King K. Rool. He is Dragon Steel. He's got that big armored belly. You could give him Flying, Fire, Grass, Ground, or Fighting though. But I think his tough scales plus the Steel type, it makes him a great defensive unit. You know, that's what he is in Smash. He's just a defensive unit. Honestly, give him Psychic. He's a genius. You can do that as well. You can make him a special attacker, even though like Potions, Dr. K. Rool, you know, Pirate K. Rool, whichever one you want to go with. At number 68, I gave Isabelle normal Flying. I think she's the same exact thing as Villager, but I think that dog, the Isabelle, the cuteness, it needs to be like represented in a different way. I think giving Isabelle Flying isn't really a bad choice. You could also give him Fairy, Ground, or Grass. Again, just like secondary typing to that normal. Isabelle kind of only needs the normal. I think they deserve a bit more than Villager though, because I think Villager is a bit more normal. Like Isabelle is a talking dog. At number 69, we have Incineroar, Fire Dark. At number 70, we have Piranha Plant. Now for the pot, you could give it Steel, and Piranha Plant can use Fire, but I think honestly for Piranha Plant, I'm gonna give him Grass Dark. I think Grass Dark just kind of fits it. It's a menace, it's evil, it's grass, it's Piranha Plant. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. At number 71, I give Joker Psychic Dark. You could give him Fighting, you could give him Normal, you could give him anything else, but Psychic Dark just kind of fits the Joker part, you know? Even Fire works for Arsene. Maybe like when you trigger your persona, which is when you take enough damage, Joker will gain the Fire type instead of the Psychic type, you know, to represent him getting Arsene. Or Joker switches from Psychic Dark to Fire Flying to represent Arsene fully. That'd be an amazing way to implement Arsene. Again, a lot of these DLC characters got extra love, so I think a lot of these secondary mechanics would honestly be pretty cool. I think something like Fire Flying would just be like a cool effect to gain on Joker, you know, from Arsene. And I know he gets all the other personas, but I think representing just these is kind of important because this is what we got for Smash. It is the figurehead persona, like it is the one when you go, oh, Persona 5, that has Arsene in it, you know? I mean, you're supposed to at least. I know a lot of people don't. So Psychic Dark, and then when you take like half your health, you'll gain Fire Flying. At number 72, Hero, he is a Psychic Fire type. Honestly, most of his spells are Fire, and the mana is his biggest part, so I gave him Psychic. But Steel, Fighting, or Flying would all work. Honestly, a lot of his spells involve that kind of thing. For Banjo and Kazooie, I gave Banjo Fighting and Kazooie Flying. And again, Fighting, Flying, same exact Pokemon though, so they're 2-in-1. You could have the Parental Bond ability. You could also give them Grass, Ground, Normal, or Fire. I could see you giving that for either one of the types. I think they need to be a dual type because they're a team. I think they should have Parental Bond or something like that. At number 74, we have Terry, who's a Fighting Fire type. Honestly, you could give him just Fighting, but I think he fits the Fighting Fire type well enough. You could also give him Normal or Dark. I could see either of those. But I think Terry kind of works as just a pure Fighting as well. I think he's one of the Shotos that just like does Shoto things. At number 75, we have Byleth. Byleth's whole entire thing is having the dragon weapon, so I gave it Psychic Dragon. Byleth also has the second entity inside of them. So honestly, Byleth could be Fairy, Fighting, or Steel, but I think Byleth is a smart teacher who uses the dragon tools, so I gave them, you know, Psychic Dragon just to like fix it up. For number 76, we have Min Min. I gave them Dragon Fighting. I think the Dragon type kind of just fits them with the Dragon Arm. A lot of these DLC characters, like I said, have those gimmick mechanics. So maybe Min, after landing their signature move, they gain the dragon typing, and you give them a dragon throw or whatever, where it's like it doesn't let your opponent attack, and it constricts them or something, and then you become a dragon type. You know, something like that. And then of course give them the fighting type to start. You could also give them normal, flying, or water, but I think dragon fighting just kind of works better for Min. And again, I think fighting, turning into that dragon type, I think that would work best for Min if I was to do like a mechanic for Min. Steve at number 77, I give him ground steel. Of course he's gonna mine until we get steel type, so maybe give him a mechanic where he gains steel type after not attacking for a turn. So if you use a status move, he'll gain the steel typing. That way you could kind of trick up your opponent. Are you going to status and gain the steel typing, or are you going to not? And that kind of represents his mining. Then he would also be a grass normal just on the side. At number 78, I have Sephiroth with dark flying. That's why I think the fighting type would work, because again, it goes neutral against the dark flying, but it also makes him weak to the dark flying. And I think Sephiroth should be strong against, you know, his rival. Sephiroth can also have fire, ghost, psychic, rock, or steel. I think most of those are self-explanatory. I think rock and ghost are the kind of hard ones. He uses like mental tricks the whole time that can be mistaken for ghosts. And for rock, well, he throws a big rock at you in the story, so I feel like that one's pretty easy to guess. At number 79 and 80, we have Pyramithra. This is a stance change character. We already knew that was going to happen. Either a fire fairy, right? Or a psychic fairy, depending on which stance you're in. Stance would be its own move, you would use it. You could pick before the battle by changing them in and out. Like if you want Sword Aegislash at the beginning of the battle, you know, like you should be able to pick. And maybe it's not a move that switches them, maybe it's like if you use a psychic or fire move, you switch into that type. And they can both be physical attackers, you know, psychic fairy or fire fairy. You can also give them steel or fighting as their shared typing, but I think fairy is a good like shared typing. They're very magical, and maybe Mithra can be electric, but I think psychic and fire are a good dual type, you know, like as their secondary typings. And honestly, give them an ability where it's like if you use a fire or a psychic type move, you get that stab. So it's not a full-on protein, but it's pretty close, and you'll see them change into their other form. At number 81, we have Kazuya with a dark fighting type. This was so easy to pick. Maybe give him fire or electric, but like I think dark fighting just works. You could give him an ability where he gains the dark type if he does enough damage or if he takes enough damage. Anything to give him that like extra DLC kind of taste. I think dark fighting works just fine. For Sora, you could give him steel, fire, ice, or electric. Those are very self-explanatory. I went with fairy flying. And I think Sora should gain stab on a type that he uses every time he attacks. So he won't have it as like a weakness type, right? Sora doesn't take on any of the types of fire, but I think he should gain stab on fire, ice, and electric type moves. Maybe even like less stab if you want to balance it, but I think he should gain it either all three of them always or in a rotation. I think he should get extra stab. As the final DLC character, he gets that bit of cheese. Anyway, that's what types I would give the Pokemon of Smash. If they were in Smash. If they were in Pokemon. I don't know. I don't even know how you want to phrase that one. But it's been good talking to y'all. And thank you so much for supporting the channel. Honestly, this is my dream. Just releasing these videos, having fun, talking to you guys, getting to interact with you all. You guys have made my life so much more fun these past like 2 years. And I know I'm not that big, but hopefully we grow as a team, you know. I'm doing all the editing, the recording, the audio editing, I'm doing all this on my own. I script for myself, and I think honestly, it's been a lot of fun for me, but it's kind of tough doing it with college on the side, and so I don't get to make a lot of videos for you guys, so I appreciate the support when I get it, and I know you guys don't watch all the way through, so if you watched all the way through, go and comment the letter P in my chat. No one will understand it unless they made it to this part of the video, and you know, we'll have a tight little cult down there. You know what, just go and comment a lowercase p down in my chat. No one will understand it if you guys made it to this part of the video. But I hope you guys like my typing. Also, if you guys want to comment down any of your favorite characters and what typing you think they would be, it doesn't even have to be in Smash. Maybe, hey, you like Jin more than Heihachi and Kazuya. go and comment Jin's typing down below. If you guys think I should change any of these typings, please go and tell me down in the comments below. I think it would be really cool to get this discussion started. So again, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.